Hughes fans, the best start ever for the Orange for a basketball season, and also on the day that Martin Luther King Jr. we celebrate his birthday, Sir Boeheim ties a guy who wasn't known for affirmative action until late in his career. He showed we were up and ready. And also, this episode is dedicated to the son-in-law of my cohort Harold Weber, who fought a brave battle against cancer. Rest in peace, Mr. Foe, and I support the actions of your family to get you benefits. Well, it was another week at number one for the Orange. We were 17-0, and the thing is, we were a couple victories away from our best start ever. Of course, last year we got to 19-0 before we went on a little slide. But let's take a look at our 3 victories through the week, shall we? First, started out in a place where we haven't had much success lately. We traveled down to the city of brotherly love to take on a team that has had our number a bit lately, but this year is on a little bit of a lull because they got a young team, those Wildcats of Villanova. And it's always interesting to see what Jay Wright wears, because Jay Wright, the coach for Villanova, is always impeccably dressed. But you know, he probably wasn't impeccably dressed after what Syracuse did to Villanova on Villanova's home court, courtesy of both Dion Waiters and James Sutherland and the rest of the steep Syracuse team. Boy, did they undress the Wildcats, and right. A 79-66 thumping of the Wildcats on their home court. Boy, what a way. Not only to thump Villanova on its home court, maybe take a few cheesesteaks home from the city of brotherly love. But of course, I could use a couple of those cheesesteaks myself. But then Saturday we came back home for the return game against Providence. For the second time in 10 days we played the Friars. And second time in 10 days I got to see that unique hairstyle on Providence's coach's head. What's that, a map of Albania that he's got on his head? It's almost like that little birthmark Mikhail Gorbachev has. What's that, a map of Albania? Wipe that stuff off. Okay. Yeah, what'd you have, the red wine? Yeah, you did. Get out of there. But of course, Syracuse was just all over the Friars, who were without their big guy, Vincent Council. Of course, he could have called a meeting with the mayor on that one. Providence was undermanned, and Syracuse tied the record for the best start with a resounding victory over Providence in the Dome, 78-55. And to cap it all off, last night, Syracuse was going for their best start ever. For the first time, Syracuse was going for 20-0, and also several other big things. One victory, and Boeheim would have tied Adolph Rupp for 4th place on the all-time list. And as I said, it was apropos. It was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. As I said, Rupp didn't take affirmative action until late in his career, when UTEP beat him in the title game back in the 60s. Rupp finally realized what he should do and start recruiting good African-American players. But I digress. Enough with the history. We made history last night, even though Pittsburgh was pretty game. And of course, with Jamie, the coach there for Pitt, you always gotta wonder, with his slick back hair, you gotta wonder what he was gonna do, because it seemed as though Pitt's had Syracuse's number. We haven't beaten Jamie Martin and Pitt back in, pardon me, I had a little problem there. We hadn't beaten Pitt since the 2006 Big East Championship, and we hadn't beat on our home court in the Dome since 2003. What, are we supposed to let the Panthers whoop us every time we play home? But of course, I digress. What a way to turn it out. 71-63, especially with CJ State Fair showing why he is the New York State Fair with a big slam down. And of course, Fab Mello with another monster game blocking shots. You know, I ought to say, get that out of here each time he blocks a shot, or reject it, because that's what Mello did a lot last night. And of course, Dion Waiters again showing why he's the best sixth man in college basketball. A big 71-63 win. The first time Syracuse is 20-0. The first, and of course, Boeheim ties Adolph Rupp. And we got 2 more chances to add to that perfect record this week. Saturday, we travel out to South Bend to take on a pretty good 3-point shooting team, even without Abramitis playing for him this year, the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. But then comes a big test next Monday when we travel down there into Southern Ohio to take on a surprising team this year in the Big East, the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Could we be 22-0? We'll find out. Monster week for the Orange. And now, let's have a few quick hits, shall we? First, I want to talk about gas prices. Thing is, last night I heard a very dire forecast for gasoline this year. That it's going to go shooting up and maybe cost the most that it's ever been a gallon. But I'm just wondering, what the heck is going on? Hasn't the United States economy suffered enough? It's not bad enough we've had problems with jobs the last few years. Now we gotta get choked out of more money, mainly because a rogue nation is threatening us. Something's gotta give here. The American people have had enough of having their hard-earned money taken away. There's got to be a way to get these gas prices under control, or, you know, maybe it's time we went to an alternative source of energy. Kodak. Boy, George Eastman must be turning over in his grave right now. Look what's happening to Kodak. Boy, Kodak was the one that developed photography and was the leader in film for so many years. They were a major employer in this region. Now, because they've had trouble making the transition to digital, they're on the verge of bankruptcy. Boy, it would be a dark day in Rochester and a dark day out here when that happens. And speaking of photography, I hope our new local photographer, who's a great young man, John Andreas, uses Kodak products. I'm hoping that he has a great career being a photographer. And you know, John, I hope when you maybe take my niece's pictures that you use Kodak photography. Thirdly, women's shoes. You gotta wonder with some of the names coming on some women's shoes, you know. You look on the women's celebrities and they're impeccably dressed and they got impeccable shoes. But look at the names. I hope whenever they put on shoes from Christian, they aren't going to be Louboutin. I know it's Louboutin, but you know, I like wordplay. And secondly, how about the ones Miley Cyrus wore at the People's Choice Awards? Boy, I got a cold coming on. Jimmy Choo! And finally, the NFL playoffs. Boy, Tim got T-bowed by the Patriots. Bye-bye, Denver. Boy, and what about the Green Bay Packers? This is the 4th time in 5 years that the one who holds the NFC home field advantage lost. Boy, the New York Giants and Tom Coughlin were game. Seems as though they love playing in Lambeau Field during the playoffs. But you know, the NFC Championship game hikens back to yesteryear. the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. It's been a while since the 49ers have been this far and have been to the Super Bowl. Boy, I see the things of Bill Sims, Joe Montana, and Steve Young coming to play, and also Baltimore and New England. Oh, I shudder to think Tom Brady may be being in his fifth Super Bowl, and you know, if Baltimore's quarterback doesn't do the job, he's going to take a lot of flacco. I'm Ken Haas. That's my stories this week, and I'm sticking to them. Another #1 week for Syracuse.